very, very exciting. You know, Planet as businessman, Planet as like Uber guru, consultant, and author. But I want to suggest to you that advertising still loves you, Plannerkind, and that the natural habitat of the planner in the wild is still the agency of whatever description or discipline. I've sort of got to say that, because I'm the sad fuck who's still working in advertising after 20 years. And I slightly have to justify my existence because I've done it man and boy. And there's me as a boy. This is the, I don't know if you were there, it was brilliant. It's the 1992 Direct Marketing Awards. I knocked it out of the park for a seminal piece of work for Millwall Football Club, one of the poorest pieces of agency talent casting in the history of advertising, although I do think I've aged slightly better than Jonathan Ross. Now, I want to kind of try and explain this commitment to advertising and to planning. I'm going to invoke the spirit of the late John Peel in doing this. He was once asked, why are you still at Radio 1 after all these years? You are, after all, a slightly ageing old bloke. And he said, it is either an admirable commitment to public service broadcasting or a woeful lack of talent and ambition. And in truth, there's sort of elements of that in my story as well. But the real fact of the matter is I am addicted to advertising. Secretly, I'm absolutely fucking addicted to advertising. Not so much our product, though I love it and I love the way it's changing, and I still love being in creative reviews and seeing how your thinking is transformed into something unutterably brilliant. But really, I'm addicted to the sort of, you know, the messy, magical kind of world of the ad agency and the way that we create the stuff that we create. I absolutely adore it. And I don't really get this whole kind of, and tonight's a little bit like this, isn't it? You know, this self-flagellation we go through. You know, we spent, and it doesn't matter what it is. It could be the fucking PVR. That was 2002's big gig. Then there's the internet. Then it's something else. You know, we spend our entire time going, oh, Jesus, advertising's dead. It's all going to rat shit. Planning's. I wrote actually an article on planning is dead, just to sort of add my contribution to the self-flagellation that we all put ourselves through. It seems utterly bizarre to me. You don't imagine that the architects are all getting together and going, oh, I think architecture's dead. People don't want buildings any longer. It's all a disaster, do they? But we do. We spend entire conferences self-flagellating. I don't really get it. I'm going backwards. I need to go forward. I'm not saying that, you know, and I don't think any of us are saying that we have the monopoly on great ideas, least of all great creative ideas. I'm fully aware that the most creative organisation on earth isn't a fucking advertising agency. I would also, though, like to point out that Steve Jobs didn't go to the toilet without taking Lee Clow with him. And if, you know, products like the iPod were utterly successful and reinvented a category as many of his other products did, it was partly him with a genius piece of technology. And it's partly Lee down at Shire Day knocking it out of the park, positioning the stuff that he was making. So the genius thought about 1,000 songs in your pocket is one of the great planning thoughts, and launched a category along with iconic and beautiful advertising. The truth is that we and all of us in this room, all you beautiful, wonderful people, we're bloody good at creating conceptual ideas and real-world ideas that change the fortunes of businesses. And in the short and mediocre career that I've enjoyed, you know, we keep fucking doing it. I started around the time of the world's favourite airline, Vorsprung Dirk Technik, the fourth emergency service. You know when you've been tangered, the future's bright, the future's orange. The Lynx Effect, 118, 118, The Power of Dreams, Compare the Meerkat, Glass and a Half Productions, Good Food Deserves a Little Pack, Life's for Sharing. These aren't ideas that sort of helped clients move their businesses on a little bit and won a little extra share in the Anglia region. These are ideas that have fundamentally transformed those brands and their businesses. And it's what we're really good at. That's simply the cream of what we do, and all of us do every single day. And the truth is, well, we beat ourselves up. And yes, it's okay, we have to have these little conversations, don't we, about, oh, should we change the revenue model? Oh, how do we get paid for our ideas? We should be paid by ideas and not time. We need to have a completely new way of, we should own our own IP, all those wonderful little conversations we have with ourselves. The truth is that businesses, governments, and causes are still falling over themselves to pay us really good money to do this thing that we do. And to pay us specifically, I think, for two things. Obviously, the creativity of our output in whatever form that takes its day. This is a shameless plug for a 2.5-inch high French bulldog called Alan, who sings songs of gratitude for wall sausages. They also, I think, want to pay us for what I call our revelations, my kind of action standard for the world of insight. Insight not being a particularly common output of client organisations, even though they've rebranded all their research departments insight departments. It always reminds me of all way too young, but they once rebranded the nuclear reprocessing plant Windscale as Sellafield, thinking that would solve the whole problem of their public relations disaster, and it didn't, of course, because it still produced toxic waste. And I think of that when I think about the way that clients have repurposed their research departments. Just because you call it an insight doesn't make it an insight. And the truth is, what we're really, really good at, and it's possibly because of all those research groups we spend hours and hours of time in when we start out on our career, we're really good at coming up with astonishing disclosures about people, about their lives, about the wider world. When I worked with Steve Henry, he kind of kept saying to me, all I really want planners to do is to tell me something I've never, ever heard about before, about a brand or the way that people live their lives. And if you want a whole bunch of revelations, you can do worse than purchasing from Steve Martin for a very appropriate fee the APG Gold book, which has got all the gold winners for the last 20 years. And absolute gems like this isn't insight, this is a fucking revelation. It's Claire Hutchinson, 30 for a Reason. It's Abbott Mead's Think campaign. When she found out that if you hit a kid at 40 miles an hour, there's an 80% chance they'll die, hit them at 30, there's an 80% chance they'll live. That's what we do when we're doing our job really well. Or Stuart Smith from Wydens, when he took this whole idea that Honda absolutely fucking detested and loathed diesel engines and flipped it around to turn hate into something that's incredibly positive. I think you can say the same about Craig's stuff on Try Something New Today. Not only the framing of the business problem, but also the revelation about sleep shopping, which won him a Grand Prix a few years ago. I thought I'd just embarrass you on that. And I think, that's what we really do. As planners sitting in agencies, what we're all about is this kind of transformational thinking. And as far as I'm concerned, it's something we all do really, really well, because we do it every single day of the week. And it's also something people really want to pay us to do. So I'd suggest that there's not a lot wrong with what we're doing right now. Except, at the risk of seeming, because I'm rather complacent in my senility, I've sort of decided we might have like 5 notes to self, just to stop ourselves getting too arrogant and over the top. The first one is, and it's a bit weird, but I get a lot of energy out of it. I kind of think we're incredibly young discipline. We're incredibly young in advertising. We're even younger in other marketing disciplines. And the truth of the matter is that people did a pretty good job before we came along. If you decide to pursue in your career just one of those, and thinking of anybody who's thinking of a decade-long career in social media strategy right now, I think you're going wrong, because great planners do business through to implementation. Thirdly, let's try and get back to real problem solving. I spent the last decade probably banging on about building purpose-driven brands, about how consumers want to know your position, not your positioning, what Simon Sinek talks about, people don't want to buy what you make, they want to buy why you make it. And I think that's desperately important in the realms of brand strategy. But we've got to get back to this fundamental job of solving commercial and social problems at their root cause, and be more focused on it. There's way too many planners and planning that's starting with, I've got to come up with a communications idea. Let's go and get the insights out. Fourthly, you can tinker, but I think you'd be better off transforming. It makes for a much more interesting and exciting career if you're not just the person that helped move things along a little bit on your watch, but you fundamentally changed the fortunes and outcomes of an organisation. And 5, don't ask me what the future of planning is. I think this is something we're all going to make up as we go along. It's down to all of us to define that. I think I'd just say finally that The truth is, you know, planners doing amazing work in agencies of all sorts of descriptions. They're doing amazing work in businesses where they've escaped, and in creating new IP that's taken to clients. And it doesn't really matter where you ply your trade. But returning to what a bloke we now understand was a complete and utter arsehole, as well as a genius, he kind of talked about the real need to make a dent in the universe. And I suggest that that's where we are at our best, when we're making a tiny little dent in the universe. Thank you.